think you're better off alone. Because I miss you. I miss you fellas. Like the deserts miss the rain. Oh. And it's a good vibration. It's a sweet sensation.
Whoa, okay.
Missing us is a sweet sensation?
Yeah, I'm missing that sweet sensation, I gotta say.
Oh, well,
okay.
We're doing okay. We're not alone. We're
here.
We're together.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Welcome back to Uninformed Movie Reviews. It is Danny Two Hands
Redacted.
Here with the other friends.
Redacted.
And we got
Correct.
Frankie Apodaci.
Facts.
And we've got David Peen.
Well, thank you for that welcome, Danny. Yes, we're here. Myself and Frank and Danny, the thirsty twosome, those rapscallions. And what are we doing today? We're on a quest, ladies and gentlemen. Some might call it our quest to find out what our favorite movie of all time is, at least up until this point. Obviously, there's some movies that haven't come out yet, or movies that have come out, and we just haven't seen.
People would call it that, David.
People would. So if you're unfamiliar with the segment, basically, people ask that question. What's your favorite movie? What a big question. There's so many genres, so many flavors. So what are we doing? We're going into a proverbial 31 flavors, and we're taking it flavor by flavor, taking these little sample cups.
Yeah, but really, those guys at Baskin-Robbins are slacking.
We are the annoying customer asking for every little spoon while everyone else waits.
And not 31. We are getting in there. We're dissecting many flavors across the rainbow we'll be hitting along this long journey.
And the flavor that we're talking about today is not particularly, it wouldn't make a good ice cream flavor. We're doing zombie movies.
Rancid.
Ooh.
Just in time for the spookies. So we're going to have a runner-up and a favorite each, and that brings us to Franklin. Frank, what's your runner-up for favorite zombie movie?
My runner-up for my favorite zombie movie, which would be my second favorite, not the ultimate favorite, would be 2017's One Cut of the Dead, coming to us out of Japan. Delightful little horror comedy. It's got a 7.7 on IMDb, 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Whoa.
If that's not a good score, I don't know what is.
That is certified fresh.
Yeah. I don't know, this movie, the only reason I know about this movie is because David reads his emails and he's subscribed to Alamo Drafthouse. But what a delightful surprise this movie was. And I think it being a more recent release, it's not like I just got into zombie movies, and me picking it for one of my favorites should be a lot. It's written and directed by Shin Ichiro Haida. It is actually adapted from a play written by somebody by the name of Ryochiya Ueda. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
That is cool.
I did not know that.
That's got to be a crazy stage production.
As far as budget versus earnings, this is going to be one of our bigger successes. This movie cost 3 billion Japanese yen, roughly $25,000.
Okay. I'm glad you did that calculation.
Yeah. Wow, that sounds like a lot.
Had an opening weekend in the U.S. of $6,360. Grossed $52,000 U.S. Worldwide gross $27 million.
Whoa! So that's a huge opening.
Yeah.
In Japan, and actually, I mean, not to steal your thunder, I don't know if you had this note, but it's the most successful independent horror film in Japanese history.
Yeah,
as far as margins go.
I even saw that it took off in a couple other countries, including India. It's got like a huge surge right now, which is pretty nuts. I can't remember. I think it's a dubbed version. I think they dub it for the Indian audience. But I mean, I wrote a lot of notes, and then when I was done, I was like, I really don't want to spoil this movie.
Yeah,
because I do highly recommend it, and it is streaming on Shudder right now. So if you can find a way to get yourself, I don't know, like a free trial, that's what I'm going to try to do. Just watch a bunch of horror movies this month. I definitely recommend watching this movie.
Well, here's the thing, Frank. All you need is 4 relatives' addresses and 4 fake emails for about 28 days of free streaming.
Is it 7 days? It's 7 days.
I think it's a 7-day trial.
Oh, okay,
sure.
well, that's not too bad.
I'd have to find.
Oh, sorry.
No, what were you gonna say?
Well, I was just gonna say, if you don't mind me jumping in, I just want to kind of paint the picture. I had gotten this email from Alamo, and it just said, "Hey, this is a really successful independent Japanese movie it's got zombies in it, and it's going to be in theaters for like one night at Alamo Drafthouse." And I was like, "Okay." I text Frank and Michelle, and I was like, "Let's go see this movie. Let's go watch it." So then we go to this theater, not knowing what to expect, and I agree with Frank. You can't spoil it. That's like the fun of it. But basically, about, I don't know, 40 minutes in, like you feel that first like third of the movie and it feels done, and then you're kind of confused. You're like, is the movie over? But then after that, like the next two acts are just, it totally turns everything on its head, and it's like incredible. It's like one of the most ambitious horror movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, pretty much. You get the first story, and it's a story about, in its own right, it's fantastic. It's just like a story about a film crew trying to make a zombie movie, and then they get attacked by zombies, and they have this like horrible director, and it's hilarious. Like it's super funny. And like David says, at one point it totally kind of flips the whole thing on its head. And watching it first time, my mind was boggled. Like it was definitely, I felt that feeling, just like what?
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely recommend it. Watch it again and again. It is fantastic. Totally agree with that.
I got to be honest. I have never heard of this movie, and I've never seen it. Also,
it's
you say it's available on Shudder right now, or probably will be.
I honestly think you would love it, but at the same time, I don't know anymore.
I mean, it's great.
Well,
I think it's the most creative zombie title that we've had in decades, maybe.
And that's one of
saying a lot.
Yeah, and that really is one of the reasons it is my runner-up. It is such a different idea, and it's pulled off so well. Yeah, like everybody acts exactly at the level that they should be acting for that scene, I think is the best way I can put that.
I think, like, you guys are touching on a good point that as far as zombie movies go, I mean, man, there was an obvious boom of zombies movies. It kind of happens in like, a V shape or like a U shape over time. Like there was this boom of zombie movies in like late 60s, and then maybe even again in the 80s, kind of took a lull and then came back in like the mid 2000s and really took like a huge, boom. But I feel like we're in another lull again because there's just so much availability of content without originality, or what more can be done. And it's really interesting to know that there's a new take out there this. That actually has taken titles, surprisingly enough.
Well, I think,
or what is it?
A Cut.
One Cut of the Dead.
One Cut of the Dead. I love how many zombie movies play on the classic Romero name. It's crazy how like influential those titles are.
And fun fact, the main character, the guy who plays the director, bears a striking resemblance to David and Frank and Bean superfan Benny Saraceres.
Oh, he does.
And it's so funny.
Benny, if you're watching this, you gotta go check out that movie.
Danny, you should just Google this movie really quick so you can see this guy, because it's just like Japanese Benny.
Yeah,
man.
it's a Japanese Benny.
It's a hoot.
You know what? I'm pretty sure now that you guys are saying this, I think I remember the night you guys went to go see this.
Yeah, I would imagine we told you about it.
I think we did, yeah. But kind of what Danny was saying, we're sort of riding out a wave right now. I think Walking Dead caused the last big zombie spike. Like Walking Dead was such a huge hit when it came out.
Thank you, Kirkman.
Thank you, Kirkman, of course, the master.
Yeah, troll.
Master troll. Then after that we had a resurgence. You have movies like Warm Bodies, World War Z. Not a lot of like quality movies, you know what I mean?
But movies nonetheless.
But there were a bunch of movies. Zombieland was around that same. Or actually, yeah, Zombieland was right around that same time.
Zombieland 2.
2009ish.
Yeah, and Walking Dead the show came out in 2009. So, and it's interesting. We're kind of riding this wave out as Walking Dead is riding its wave out as well. It's like it started this wave and it's ending this one as well. But
it's waiting until the wave has crashed on shore and there's no more water left.
Well, they're only doing one last season. That's what they officially announced. Which is
Are they still doing Fear the Walking Dead?
Yeah, Fear the Walking Dead's still going on. Although honestly, that one's really tanked. But that's a whole nother podcast.
Isn't there another one? Isn't there a third spinoff that's going on right now?
It's like a Walking Dead World Beyond, and it actually seems like it kind of has a bit of a Last of Us vibe because it's years and years into the apocalypse. It's like all these giant communities exist now. The world's kind of returning to normal, and it's a group of kids that have to cross over. So they're
Do
going.
they have to get some weird like sap from some tree in this goblet with this crystal in it to keep them safe from a miasma?
The Crystal Chronicles references going on over here. That's for all you GameCube fans out there. But it's got that kind of like Stranger Things sort of vibe to it. It seems like it's gonna be a bunch of kids on bicycles running away from zombies. But also kind of just an interesting dynamic because the kids. It seems like they've never had to encounter zombies. That's how sheltered of a life they're living again.
Oh, that's no good. You got to train these kids how to fight zombies.
Yeah, see, they made a mistake right there. So I don't know. I'm going to check that show out. I mean, I've checked out everything Walking Dead, so at this point I need to finish out strong.
Quick interjection.
Yeah.
I happened to see Japanese Benny Cerceres we're talking about right here. And boy, he's just dead on. This looks
Right?
just like Ben Dog.
Yeah,
Benny's got better teeth. I'll give Benny that. And he's a snazzy dresser.
I mean, he's
that
got the
guy.
same haircut and everything.
I was
Yeah,
gonna say,
yeah.
incredible.
It's
Benny.
got the facial hair going. It's so funny.
Yeah, Benny's definitely
Benny,
got a better
if you're
sense of
listening, please, I'm sure you've seen this fella, but get in touch with him.
style. Yeah, and you know what? Benny likes the anime too, so hop in, man. This is a great movie.
Fun fact about this movie: my second most favorite zombie movie of all time, at least that I've seen up to this point. Like what I haven't got around seeing and what hasn't come out yet. 4 zombies in this entire movie. You know what I mean? Like that. Like that's just goes to. That's the point I want to bring up to go. This movie shows what you can do with like not a whole lot. You can do a whole lot with it. And it's all very effective. Like every little thing they do, every gag. There's so many things set up and that come to fruition. It's just like perfect.
The payoff, the comedic payoffs hit perfectly.
Yeah. It's like it's the perfect like what the setup at the beginning of the Seinfeld episode, and then they nail it at the end, but like 100 times. It's a beautiful thing.
Right on, man. I love it.
Number 2, crispy.
Danny, does that mean you're giving us your number 2?
Yeah, that is a good way.
That was the fizzy interjection right there, fellers. I'm glad that those are going to come out just perfect. Yeah. Like, let me give you my old number 2, my stank, if you will. Stank of the rank, I guess.
I don't
Stank
think
of the
it's your
rank.
second favorite. It's just runner up.
Dude, Stank of the Rank sounds like the hot new track of the summer. Well, next summer, because
That's what
summer's
I'm saying.
officially over.
But yeah, David, to put it in lesser terms, I mean, or in grander terms, really, Ricky Bobby said it best. If you ain't first, you're last.
That is true. Ricky Bobby did say
He
that.
did say that, but that doesn't make any sense. There's second, there's third, there's fourth.
Well, I feel like I'm gonna get some. We're gonna cross some streams right now because I'm sure this is on someone else's list. My runner-up for best zombie film, 28 Days Later.
Ooh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, this is my number 1 actually. So
Ooh,
you're stealing my thunder a little bit, but that's okay. No, I'm just joking. Bring it in, man. Tell us what you like about 28 Days Later, and maybe I'll tack on something on the end.
2002. What can you say about 28 Days Later that hasn't been said about it? I mean, it's kind of what we were
It's
talking
bad.
about, kind of responsible for kicking off the third or fourth wave generation of zombie films, if you will, and Infected more specifically. We'd say, for those zombie purists out there, they would argue that this is an Infected film.
I was getting that argument with Michelle last night because we were watching 28 Days Later, and she's like, "These guys aren't even zombies," and I was like, "Well, they're not, but it's a zombie movie. If this makes any sense, like,
Yeah.
by definition, no, they're not zombies. But when you look at a genre, like zombies as a genre, it follows the tropes of a zombie movie. You know what I mean? It's
Definitely.
We have the exact same things. People hide wounds in both films.
Yeah,
And
although
that's what's important.
28 Days Later, you don't got a lot of time to hide that wound. You got seconds.
And it's so funny.
That's true.
I'm glad we're setting the precedent because I had this same fight like with myself internally with my number 1 pick. So
Okay,
I'm glad we
perfect.
got this out of the way.
Well, that's interesting to think because we're talking about some of the things that set this movie apart, and obviously it was kind of a groundbreaker in terms of talking about Infected and really like laid the foundation for like other movies to spin off of it, namely like World War Z and other bigger Infected movies with fast moving zombies. More of a biologically influenced infection, so to speak. More of a post-apocalyptic setting in terms. We were talking about that a little bit. I don't know. I mean, it was definitely just a groundbreaking film. I was 11 years old when this movie came out. My parents let me watch it, and I remember being
pretty
terrified.
movie.
I could see that being a decision your parents make.
Yeah,
That
definitely.
makes sense to me.
You know what? We see the impact of the running zombie too a lot in that wave of zombie movies. You got things like Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead, maybe my favorite Zack Snyder movie. But that movie I think takes a lot of influence from 28 Days Later.
Yeah.
And even Shaun of the Dead makes a couple jokes at 28 Days Later. 28 Days Later's expense.
Well, and I think a lot of it has to be done with how it's filmed too. And like 28 Days Later, I believe, was decisionally filmed with Handycam, with some Sony Handycam moments.
Yeah,
and
like the ones our parents would have had with like the tiny DVD in it.
Well, actually, I got that info on the camera. The camera that was used was a Canon XL1, which was the top of the line prosumer camera in the early 2000s. So if you were like, a professional wedding video recorder, or maybe you were working on a student film at a pretty big film university, that's the camera you would have used. But yeah, the movie was shot handheld intentionally to kind of give it a gritty and sort of grounded look, which I think is pretty successful.
Absolutely.
But, the other,
and then even the camera techniques, like you're saying, with the gritty look, they were definitely more of a shaky. This is the beginning of like, taking off from the shaky Handycam footage kind of era also, and manipulation of that. And it's even seen in a more polished look, like you're talking about with Dawn of the Dead, with Zack Snyder's remake, in which there were faster moving zombies. A lot of the camera work is more shaky. The sway movement, maybe it's zoomed in onto like the actual movement of the zombies, like say clothes moving or body parts moving. It's less focused from like a stationary point of view. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think for the most part, there's a couple big wide shots in that Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead, particularly when they're like trying to escape in those like city buses that they've rigged up. There's some really cool stuff at the end of that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, the whole movie's shot. The movie is shot handheld, and it's funny because Michelle spotted it last night. You can even see one of the cameramen in one of the scenes.
Really?
Spoiler alert: when the dad gets that drop of blood in his eye, Mad Eye Moody from the Harry Potter series, when he starts turning into a zombie, you can see one of the cameramen laying on the floor, and he's got like the camera in his hand. He's like he's got it like on a pillow or something to help steady his shot. But he's just right there in the corner of the frame, like clear as can be.
That's so funny.
I never caught it before, and I've seen this movie like hundreds of times.
I'm gonna have to rewatch this tomorrow.
But one last note about the camera. So unfortunately, because of the way it was shot, there's no feasible way that we're ever going to get a remaster of this movie unless there is something like some kind of technological innovation that doesn't exist right now comes to pass, because,
Like time travel?
yeah, I guess, right? Time travel would be a good one. But when you watch it, it was recorded on a low resolution camera by today's standards. So I was watching it on my TV, and I have a fairly large television. And I was watching the Blu-ray, and it was just so grainy. Like, this thing almost needs to be watched on like a 25-inch flat screen.
Maybe even a VCR. Maybe even a VHS.
I think the real setup, you need a small flat screen from the early 2000s. You need a PS2 and a DVD copy. And I think that's probably the most authentic way you can watch 28 Days Later.
I'm pretty sure Frank and I did watch 28 Days Later on one of those devices.
Yeah, that sounds like the exact setup we probably watched it on.
I know for sure I watched this movie on my original Xbox all the time because I had that little thing. You had to buy.
Did you ever have the little remote?
Movies.
Yeah, the little DVD input with the remote.
You had to buy that thing to watch movies on your Xbox. So obnoxious. But one last thing, if when you're watching the movie, when they finally escape the threat of the soldiers towards the end, and they're off in that cottage, the like quick little epilogue of the movie, that part shot in 35 millimeter. And when you watch it, it's crazy because it's so clear compared to the rest of the movie. It's
beautiful right away.
It's beautiful, and the color contrast is so different too. Like the beginning of the movie is so gray and bleak, and everything is dark and grainy, and then you get to the end, and it's these giant wide shots of just beautiful green British countryside. I mean, you can get what he's trying to do. You know what I mean? It's pretty obvious, but it's I wish I'm torn because it's kind of charming. It's like watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It looks gritty and rough, but it's a '70s movie and it feels like a grindhouse movie. But at least you can remaster Texas Chainsaw. You know what I mean? At least you can get a clear resolution. I'm kind of bummed that this movie's going to get kind of stuck in this forever state.
Well, I don't think he would
Yeah,
want to
I mean,
remaster, you know? It adds to like it's like he woke up in a haze and we stay in the haze with them until they're like safe.
Yeah, maybe it's like a time capsule of sorts to just always be transported to that one time. You're just like, oh yeah, wow, I remember this low res time. And it's also really cool because we can talk a little bit about how 28 Days Later had like, that coincidental kind of spark of zombie infected movement, like that. What happened with The Walking Dead, kind of having the same premise and coming out at the same time. But like this movie, obviously like is one of the first beginning looks at the zombie genre in putting like a post-apocalyptic spin on things and looking at humans as the actual threat with the infected as well. But you could argue that the infected were definitely zombies amped up to be a huge part of the threat. I mean, like they're a more looming threat in this than an actual zombie movie would be, I would imagine.
I kind of agree with you and I kind of disagree with you a little bit because I think in the movie, for the most part, the zombies aren't a threat. I mean, it's kind of split into two chapters, right? It's like them in London and then when they leave to go find these soldiers. And there's like the big turning point in the movie, and it also flips on its head who are the bad guys. But as far as post-apocalyptic, I mean, I think it is a big one for sure, but I think that there's plenty of earlier zombie movies, especially like the Romero movies. I think they did a really good job early on saying it's not the zombies, it's the people. I mean, even if you look at the original Night of the Living Dead, if they had all just cooperated and worked together and talked with each other, they probably all would have lived. But it was because they kept arguing and people were making their own decisions. That's what ultimately like killed that group of people. But I think as far as like the modern post-apocalypse, that for instance, I mean, the beginning of the movie when they're showing the just totally empty city, like decimated, creepy city. That's also the beginning of Walking Dead. That's just so funny to me.
Yep.
What less serendipity. But yeah, that's just iconic, I think.
It is.
What do you,
especially with the alt post rock soundtrack that's like implemented into it. You know what I mean?
Just gonna say the same thing, Danny. We were getting the same note.
You have like an edited version of Godspeed You Black Emperor in the album, which is amazing. You have Phantom Planet,
which was like my introduction to like all like these bands that you're mentioning right now. You know what I mean? Like this is when I found out about these bands.
Well, you also have the composer John Murphy, which it's kind of crazy how much that that Godspeed You Black Emperor song sounds like the rest of the soundtrack.
Blackspeed God Emperor.
Yeah, Blackspeed God Emperor. They sound almost the same. You know what I mean? It's kind of seamless. And that ending tune that they use when Cillian Murphy's kind of going in and, killing all these soldiers and everything, that little theme's been really popular and it's been used in other movies. It was written for 28 Days Later. Of course, it got used to death in the sequel 28 Weeks Later. But Kick-Ass uses that theme song as well. They use the theme from this movie for when...
He's the same composer.
Well, it's not even that he's the composer for Kick-Ass. They literally took that track from 28 Days Later and they used it to score the scene where Big Daddy's on fire in Kick-Ass. When Nicolas Cage is just yelling, "Wah! Wah!" Great stuff.
Yeah, that theme is fantastic, man. It's so memorable.
I guess in a weird turn of events, though, let me be the numbers daddy real quick and toss the numbers at you here, y'all. Let me see. I have it pulled up on my phone here. Yeah, so budget, we have $8 million estimated budget. Opening weekend, $10 million domestic. Gross domestic, $45 million, and a worldwide gross of $85 million.
Ooh, yeah.
Because you got to remember, this is Danny Boyle directing this movie. This is a British darling.
Huge name director. Yeah.
Yeah, and at this time, he'd already had some big hits. He had Trainspotting. He had The Beach with Leonardo DiCaprio.
Almost Famous.
This was a big one. No, that's a different guy, I'm pretty sure. That's Cameron Crowe.
Oh. Yeah, you're right.
Danny Boyle also did Slumdog Millionaire in 127 hours. Some pretty big movies. And also, he worked on this movie with the writer Alex Garland. And they went together. They went on together to do Sunshine after this movie. And I don't know if y'all have seen Sunshine.
I have seen Sunshine.
Dang.
I have not, but I do really like that Red Stripe commercial with the Jamaican guys doing the weather. Sunshine.
Okay, I haven't seen that commercial. Dude, we have to watch that movie.
Oh, Sunshine's great.
Yeah.
That's a great dystopian sci-fi film. It's pretty amazing.
I could get into that.
It's like The Core, but way more smart. You know what I mean? It's like kind of the same idea.
and it came out.
Well,
at
that's good. The Core's
hey,
not
this
good.
might work actually. This came out right around the same time as The Core
Ooh, do we have
for one of our segments.
Do we have a doppelganger in the works?
Seems
We
like
got
a
a
name.
doppelganger, dude. Those are both bangers, even though The Core is whack.
I just watched The
disagreement?
Core for the first time recently, and I would also have to disagree. The Core does not bang.
Yeah, The Core
It
is
does not bang or slap.
That's a doppelstanker.
I
man.
just said it's whack.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay. It just sounded. I thought you said they were both bangers for a second. I'm getting confused over here. Anyway, so I think there was a couple other things that I wanted to throw in about 28 Days Later. I mean, we covered the camera stuff. I think the performances are all really, really good. Cillian Murphy is great. I think the dialogue is really solid in this movie. Especially we get like a lot of character motivations with I'm blanking on her name right now. The female protagonist, Selena, played by Naomi Harris. She's also Moneypenny in the new James Bond movies. But that's just for me. Anyway, her struggle with, what are we living for? Who's worth saving and who's worth putting your life out for? I think it just works really well. And part of this is because Alex Garland's just a damn good writer, y'all. And if you're not familiar with Alex Garland's other
He
work,
is my guy.
I mean, Ex Machina, you know what I'm saying? Woo, that's
You
a
guys
movie.
need to watch Annihilation. I mean, that is
Oh,
an
yeah.
Alex Garland top.
I still haven't seen that. And he did a show recently too.
The devs.
Yeah, and I heard that was also really good.
It's very interesting. I haven't completed much of the first season. I'm probably about halfway through the first season. It's very heady. It's very Alex Garland-y for sure.
Cool.
But I sincerely recommend watching Annihilation.
Okay.
Like, if you are a fan of Alex Garland, you have to watch Annihilation.
Yeah, I'll watch it. Is it a horror movie or is it just sci-fi?
Sci-fi horror,
Okay.
but not leaning hard into the horror. It's definitely a cosmic sci-fi.
I'll squeeze it in
Just a
this
light
October.
lean.
I'll squeeze it in the 31 movie marathon.
Finagle it somehow.
Anything else on 28 Days Later?
It's a slow burn, though. Don't expect anything that's like, quick and easy.
That's my middle name. I'm all about the slow burn, everybody.
You're gonna have to sit and wait for that action. And it's
No,
not
I'm
the action.
sorry,
isn't
David. I
like
think your middle name is Slow Ride.
Slow ride.
David Slow Ride Pena.
Bow now. Okay, this is totally.
Take it easy.
This is so off topic, but before we move on, Foghat came to play Street Fest 2010. It was literally 2 days before I started dating Michelle, and we went to go see Foghat together. And I was just stoked to hear Slow Ride because as a bass player, that's a great bass line. You know what I mean? It's the last song of the set. I'm sitting through all these Foghat songs that, let's be honest, nobody knows any Foghat songs. They get to Slow Ride, and the bass player has simplified the line. There's no neat little fills. The funk is gone. It's just essentially like ba-dum, ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum. Yeah, ba-dum, dum, bum, bum, ba-dum, ba.
Oh my
It sounds like
goodness.
like you wrote that bass line in a beginner book for like a kid to play along with on a CD that comes in the back of the book.
It's like someone didn't pay for like the advanced transcription.
Yeah, exactly. It's the tabs you get off Guitar Pro or whatever it is. Ultimate Guitar. That's what I'm
Man,
trying to say.
you know who cares about Foghat though? Aqua Teen Hunger Force, the movie, cares about Foghat.
Oh man,
'Cause
I don't remember.
pretty
that
sure
at
they
all.
talk about it quite a bit.
That's funny. I'm gonna have to rewatch that movie. It's been a little while for me.
That brings up another. Oh, that's interesting. But we'll talk about it during. Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, that is interesting.
Oh, that is interesting. So, any
That sounds interesting.
any other thoughts on old 28 Days Later?
No, I mean, I think we should just, as is tradition, we should hit the old rating numbers if we may.
Yeah.
Sitting at 87% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I can
Solid,
agree
that's
with
right.
that. And What's it got here on the old IMDb? 7.6 out of 10, fellas.
That's okay.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
It's
I'd probably
0.1
rate it
lower
higher than
than
that.
my runner-up, but so I guess I did a little better.
I think that there's always a like a horror tax on ratings on IMDb. Like horror movies are just fighting.
Horror and comedy, they're
Yeah.
like tough genres.
Yeah,
they're-
they're all subjective experiences, right? I mean, especially horror and comedy. They're two very real reactions you can't fake as far as feeling from.
Yeah, that's true.
Watching a movie.
Yeah, if you're not involved in it, you're not involved in it. Okay, well this is weird. So then it's my turn, I guess. 28 Days Later was my number 1. So now it's time to talk about my runner-up.
Wait, Frank. That deserves a not so surprised sample. Give us a zinger.
I'm gonna put some subtitles up. It's gonna say "unconfident party horn."
Yeah, I really wasn't sure where to go there.
I'm really glad that party horn had just a lack of gusto.
Yeah.
A lack of gusto. Okay, so my number 1 runner-up. The only movie I'll be talking about. No, my runner-up is Day of the Dead from 1985, directed and written by George A. Romero. You prince, gone too soon. So it was a
Wasn't
bit.
he like pretty old?
Yeah, he was an old guy. It was a bit.
How old is he?
I don't know.
Old enough for when David said that, I was like, I feel like it'd be cruel to make somebody stick around longer. They're like having issues.
He was 77. That's pretty old. That's a nice long.
That's pretty
life.
old, yeah.
It was probably those giant glasses that weighed down his head over the years. But Day of the Dead. So Day of the Dead is the third, and I guess it gets complicated because originally it was like the Dead trilogy, but that kind of got warped as time went along. Originally it was like kind of the end of this trilogy, which if you're not familiar with this, you got Night of the Living Dead, the 1960s movie. Then you got the 1970s movie Dawn of the Dead. And then in the 80s, you have Day of the Dead. So it's kind of cool. You had one for each decade. And the movies aren't connected by characters, but they're connected by universe and the severity of the outbreak. So in Night of the Living Dead, there's just a few zombies. It's literally like the night they all come out. And mankind still wins the day at the end. In Dawn of the Dead, it's
They
like...
still think it's going to be okay.
Right?
Yeah.
In Dawn of the Dead, it's right at the turning of the tide. It's humans getting overrun and basically society really breaking down. The cops fleeing in the movie who are our protagonists. And then that brings us to Day of the Dead, which is pretty much, it's the end of the road. Where the movie takes place in this military bunker, and it's between two groups. There's a group of soldiers and a group of scientists. And they're at ends. And really what starts this movie off is that the person who was in charge has just died. And in his place is Commander Rhodes, who is maybe one of the most over-the-top 80s horror villains I've ever seen. And I love it. I love it. Every line of dialogue that he drops is gold. And he comes in maybe like 10 minutes into the movie, and he's at like 11, like on a rank of 1 to 10, he's at a strong 11.
He's almost as over the top as Bill Paxton's portrayal of Chet in Weird Science.
Yeah, I mean, I would feel like it's maybe even more. It's nothing but just screaming, but at the same time,
and it's also like not in jest.
It's not in jest, and that's the
Yeah.
big part. Like Chet isn't threatening, whereas Rhodes, you're like, man, at any moment this guy is going to snap and break. But the movie really just, it goes over this tension between these characters. The soldiers are losing men, trying to collect specimens for the scientists to study with. And meanwhile, on the scientist end, it's kind of led by this Dr. Frankenstein character who's sort of losing his mind. And he's training Bub, maybe the first instance of an intelligent zombie. I don't know. I think Return of the Living Dead came out the same year. I'm pretty sure. I think they're.
I
both
really do think that this
1985.
was, because when I watched it with you, this was my first time watching Day of the Dead, and I was just like, wait a second. This zombie's using a gun?
Yeah, he
and
uses a gun, and
Able to speak?
it kind of ramps up to that. Now, as far as like speaking and everything, that really gets more explored in, I guess, the fourth film, Land of the Dead, that came out in the 2000s with good old Luigi Leguizamo. But that movie I'm not as crazy about. To be honest, I like the original trilogy. Land of the Dead is a dip off in quality. And after that, Romero put out another trilogy of movies that weren't very good. And I've seen...
Weren't those the found footage ones?
One of them was. That was Diary of the Dead was the found footage one. And they just kept going. That was the only found footage one, though. But yikes. They're not great. It's one of those things where you're like, man, I wish you had just stopped a long time ago.
Oh, you mean like a George Lucas situation?
Yeah, kind of, but I guess that's all over the place now. There's people on all sides of the fence there. But let me read a couple of these stats to y'all. Day of the Dead on IMDb, we got a 7.2 out of 10. Pretty decent score here. As far as Rotten Tomatoes, I'm not sure. On Metacritic, it has a 60. I think this one is it's not for everybody. It is a little hokey at times. As far as the numbers go, this was a $3.5 million budget. Opening weekend, $1.7 million opening. And it went on to gross just $5 million. Oh, wow. So really, this was not a widely successful movie.
Yeah. Could have done better.
It made its nut.
Yeah, and I think at that time, I think it was, kind of the end of one of the phases as part of it. But overall, I mean, I think it's a great movie. The soundtrack's awesome. And then you can't forget just Tom Savini's top-level gore effects in this movie. At the end, you get all these horrible military characters who've just been monsters the whole time, and they each meet a grisly ending. And it's the most dark and depressing out of all these movies, which is why I love it. It's great. And then one more shout out too. You got Greg Nicotero as the assistant makeup effects artist, and he plays one of the characters in the movie who later goes on to do all the visual effects on Walking Dead. So it was pretty cool to see, one of his earliest projects working with the master and then moving on to work with Kirkman.
It's true to state of form with David, dark and depressing, doesn't like Disney, Pena.
Disney's overrated.
Yeah.
It's true.
Agree.
All right, so Frank, you're hitting us with your number one.
Number one, the first number one. Well, it would have been the first, but David, I guess, kind of got to go first.
Yeah, this is weird, right?
But now I'll go first with my first, Train to Busan, the 2016 South Korean zombie film. Definitely discussed, I mentioned it earlier before, definitely an infected movie, but infected movie is a zombie movie. They fall under the same umbrella.
And
fight us.
Are they dead in this one? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's like a
yeah, okay. Because then 28 days later, it's even more of a distant thing because they're not even dead. They're just literally like infected with the disease.
Well, it's super fast. They collapse. And even there's a couple characters who don't even collapse. They we'll get into it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
I would count this as a zombie movie, definitely. Especially of the new generation.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. 7.6 on IMDb. It's got a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. Not 100, but still pretty good.
That's pretty high.
Yeah. Written and directed by Yoon Sung Ho. It had a budget of 10 billion South Korean won, which equates to $8.6 million. It got an opening weekend of just 284,000 US, 2 million gross US, but a worldwide gross of $92.7 million.
There we go.
Yeah.
Dang. This thing was a smash hit, dude.
Super smash hit.
I got recommendations like crazy to watch this movie when it first came out on Netflix.
Yeah, people were telling me to watch it left and right, and I slept on it for way longer than I should have. It is a truly delightful watch. I'm also going to try not to spoil too many things, but this movie's got a lot of stuff working for it. It's a very well written movie. The plot moves very nice. Everything feels really good shot wise. It's about gave us a little synopsis here. In our story, we follow a homeless stowaway, a man and his I wrote her down as a soon-to-be estranged daughter. Yeah, you have a high school baseball team, a pair of elderly sisters, a couple expecting their first child, on a train, leaving Seoul and heading to Busan. Everybody's going for different reasons. They all just happen on this train. But as the train's leaving the station, somebody's running away from some panic happening up on the platform. And she makes it onto the train. Ooh, but she's got a wound.
Ooh, no.
Horror ensues. So, we just followed these people you're in a zombie outbreak on a train. All the shots do a really good job of making you feel like that constrictedness of being, everything's really up close and personal. You can really see everybody's emotions and sweat like dripping from everybody's brow constantly. In the times that they do get to open it up, they definitely do a good good job of filling the shot. It feels like everything there is there to tell a story. All the characters are super endearing, especially the father and daughter, Sik, Wo, and Suan. The couple that's expecting the child, the guy in that couple, Sang Hwa, is just truly like one of the biggest badasses that I've ever seen in a movie. That guy is like delightful, and he's also, you get a few laughs out of him. And he's just truly an endearing character. There's lots of like little moments. But one of the things about this movie is it's like action packed. It is like an action zombie movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The pacing is fantastic.
Yeah, they do a good job of like building you up to a lot of stuff. It lets you know it's coming, but it is just like packed with a lot of stuff. At one point throughout the story, these groups get separated, and the last remaining like male baseball player, Young Guk, Sang Hwa, the badass, and Sekwu, the dad, they have to travel through, I think it's 6 cars like that are filled with zombies in order to like rescue some people and then make it to the rest of like the survivors in car 15.
Yeah.
And that's super awesome. Just the way they managed to get through there with not just one strategy, but like kind of 2 to 3 different strategies. It's really cool to see the way that they watch things and figure out what they need to do.
It works a lot like the movie Snowpiercer. If you guys have ever seen
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
I mean, obviously,
Bong Joon-ho.
they're-
It's got that Snowpiercer feel.
they're both on trains, obviously, but it's-
less like an Oblivion plot and more zombies.
yeah, but also in the sense that they really incorporate the train and how a train acts. So there's a lot of good, like, you know, they have the premise, and then it's like they sat in a room and wrote up, okay, what are all the different things that we could do in this scenario? And they got a lot of creative ideas, man. It's really cool.
Yeah, and just the premise as a whole is going to be another one of the reasons that I picked it as my number one. It's another like fresh take on a zombie thing.
Mm-hmm.
We've done zombie in a house, we've done zombie in a mall, we've done zombie in all kinds of scenarios, but this is the first zombie movie I can think of that takes place on a train, and they pulled it off extremely well. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. If you haven't seen it, watch it. The writer-director also did a sequel called Peninsula that we had hoped to have watched and given you a review of by now.
Oh, I'm sorry, Franklin. I think you mean Train to Busan Peninsula.
Should have, for sure. He also did a animated like prequel that's available right now for free with ads on Prime. Started watching it, didn't get to finish it.
Oh, cool.
Our dear friend Randy hit me up for Rocket League, and I wasn't about to be like, nah. I'm like,
Ooh, I might check that out. Man. That sounds nice.
Yeah, Rocket League, super awesome game. Been around for a long time. Free to play. Hit it up.
No zombies, but dang, is it good?
This is Zombie Hand.
There is a zombie hand.
Yeah.
Can come out the top of your car.
But that was a long time ago.
Probably can't get it now.
I like how you picked 2 Asian zombie movies. How cool,
It's
man.
so funny. And then like after I thought about that today, I also realized like we picked a lot of non-US movies.
Yeah, which I think actually on the whole list, the only one is Day of the Dead.
Yeah. And
Everything else
speaking
is from another place.
of international films, I think that's a perfect segue to get us to watch Train to Busan. If you haven't seen it yet, just do it. Danny, your number 1 pick.
Hey, that is a good setup. Well, friends, it's a movie we've talked about to know it. Like I can't even. I'm sorry. I am much mouth right now.
You
We've
literally
talked about this movie a
can't
lot.
even right now.
It comes from one of our favorite directors here on the channel. It is 2004's horror comedy drama, Shaun of the Dead. Ah, man, I love this movie just with my whole heart's content. This is just, and also just an amazing zombie movie, just a well done zombie movie. And we even said this on our recent Edgar Wright movie ranking. I guess not so recent now, a couple months back. It's in the catalog. Scroll down and check it out. That being said, that is a fire episode where we talked more about this. But I mean, what more can I say? It is fantastic in the fact that it is a well-constructed zombie movie as well as it is a amazingly constructed comedy movie, and it is a total sign of the times, a pioneering comedy. Yeah.
I think you make a very fair point. Like it does take care of both sides of its genres, like at full capacity.
Yeah, I think it's probably maybe the best zombie comedy. Although honestly,
One Cut of the Dead came out.
One Cut of the Dead really messed things up for me.
Yeah, the bar,
man.
honestly,
It's not to overhype, but One Cut of the Dead was one of those times where you leave the theater and you're like, immediately, I want to watch this movie again. And that thing is so good. But yeah, Shaun of the Dead is a great intro zombie movie, I think. Like if you got a young whippersnapper and you want to kind of introduce him to the genre, I think it's a really friendly movie.
Yeah.
Like obviously,
and it lays the groundwork for a lot of the tropes at the same time.
Yeah, because it's hitting all the big parody moments. So you're getting these tropes. You get a classic zombie universe, nothing wacky, no weird rules or anything like that. And there is some gore for sure, but I think it's pretty tame.
Yeah,
compared to a bunch of these other
some
movies.
Impaling, but not bad.
I mean, you do get the last scene of who
Get
is
a
it
little
that gets
red on you.
who gets ripped to shreds? Is it David?
Yeah, Dave gets ripped.
Yeah,
he gets ripped to
His
shreds.
stomach gets ripped open.
disemboweled.
In a recreation of the scene from Day of the Dead. It's literally lifted directly from that movie.
And I mean, that just looks like visual effects are great. Like you
Yeah.
don't lose anything like on that side either. Those like sausage links coming out of his gut look so
It looks
good.
really good. You know, the only thing I got to say though in the Day of the Dead one is that when they're killing that guy in that same scene, some of the zombies are also like pulling his head off. And,
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And the guy is like yelling, but his pitch is going up as they're like stretching his vocal cords. It
Yeah.
is so gnarly.
Oh, you know
in
what?
Day of the
I
Dead.
remember that
Danny
scene.
and I made a zombie film together, like our sophomore year of high school or something. And we had a scene where like the zombies were ripping my brother, and we bought a bunch of like meat and fake blood and mixed it together, and throwing it everywhere. It was a good time.
That's nice.
Yeah, you have
really
a zombie
was.
movie, somebody's
we
got
gotta
to get
find
ripped
that
to
film.
shreds. Yeah, I don't know how I could find that at this point.
I was gonna say it's probably gone. It sounds like.
Hopefully.
I mean, it seems like you two would be the ones to talk to about
I
it.
think I had it on a small tape. I really do, but I
think
don't
I
know
like
where it
gave
is.
copies out. I'm pretty sure somebody's bound to have it.
But to kind of go off of it, I mean, this movie also has just like, I mean, the benefit of it is that they didn't give it the 28 days later treatment, and the remasters of it look great. And it can also be remastered always, but also, I mean, the soundtrack is incredible in this movie too, and
It's
the music
electro,
tells
you
the story.
twat.
What's that?
I was just throwing a quote.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, the soundtrack's good, and a lot of it is from other zombie movies. There's a lot of Romero in there, a lot of Goblin. Is the name of the group. But what a tasty one, Danny! What a tasty
It
one.
really
dude.
is a tasty treat.
I'm gonna have to watch One Cut of the Dead just to try and see if it dethrones my choice.
And you know what? Very similar to One Cut of the Dead, Shaun of the Dead does the really good thing of like setting up a ton of gags at the beginning of the movie and then pulling them off perfectly, like as you go out throughout the whole thing.
And I mean, and that's Edgar Wright too. You know what I mean? That's like his style for sure. But I can see that. Yeah, they share that same kind of humor. Really just smart and well structured humor.
Very much so.
It's no Planet Terror. You know what I mean?
That's good.
Planet Terror is garbage. I finally watched that movie. It was so much.
When did you watch it?
Garbage.
Did we ask you to watch it?
Well, no,
don't
I
remember.
watched it when we did our Quentin Quarantino movie ranking. I
The
decided
Quentin Quarantino, also available if you scroll down.
just scroll down a little bit
It's
further.
a little further down, yeah, but it's down there.
Yeah. I watched that to get the full Grindhouse experience because I'd never seen it before. And man, that was rough.
Yeah.
It's a hot stinker.
I mean, that's kind of all the movies I wanted to toss out, though. Are there any? Do you guys have any honorable mentions, and at the same time, any that are so bad that you think people should stay away at all costs?
World War Z. Stay away from
World
it.
War Z is terrible. I don't really like it.
Read the Zombie Survival Guide and World War
Yeah.
Z, and that'll be a much more pleasant experience.
Oh, that's a great recommendation.
Definitely. That's an honorable mention. I feel like obviously 28 Days Later is an honorable mention. Read
28
all of The
Days Later is an
Walking Dead.
honorable mention. Your runner-up.
Yeah, my honorable mention.
Wait, do you mean weeks?
What?
Do you mean weeks?
Weeks?
Yeah.
Oh, 28 weeks later. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
I was like-
I thought I had said that when it was coming out. Sorry. I'm still waiting on 28
Like, no, these are my
months later to
honorable
happen.
mentions. They're not weak at all.
Oh man.
Yeah, Planet Terror. Stay away from Planet Terror. It is not a good zombie film. It is not a good horror film. It is not a good horror comedy film. It's bad.
I agree with the ones you guys are saying to stay away from. Although I think World War Z is just like really bland. I mean, if anything, it's just so much of a letdown from the source material is the biggest problem.
That's really what it is.
If you haven't read it, then I guess watch the movie first.
Yeah, do that.
Because if you read the book, there's no way you're ever going to enjoy that movie.
Yeah, watch the
And
movie
then-
if you haven't read the book. You might enjoy it, and then read yourself them books, and you'll be like, that was
Ooh,
sick.
That was awesome. Yeah, your bar is going to be set so low.
You'll be like, wow, I hope they do a mini series of this one day, like I was. And instead, they did a movie and ruined it.
And also check out our podcast on World War Z and the book comparison. Just scroll down even a little bit further. Wow, so many podcast shout outs. We're retreading a lot of material here. For myself, recommendation wise, we've talked about Return of the Living Dead on the channel before. I think that one's a lot of fun. I think Peter Jackson's Dead Alive is fantastic, and a lot of
I still
people
have not seen that.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people haven't seen that one. It's so over the top. It's got like Evil Dead levels of gore, just like buckets of blood and fountains shooting all over the place. But
Dude, that's awesome.
but at the same time, it's got some of that slapstick of Evil Dead 2. Very similar feel in a movie.
I got to see where I can stream that because that's worth a watch.
Yeah, there definitely is. I would also
Is a Deadite a zombie?
no, a Deadite
Oh,
is
that's
a
different, right?
demonically possessed human.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I could say Evil Dead also, but they don't really count. They're like, it's possession, really.
Yeah, I think there's an argument that that's too far for that one.
Good. I'm glad we cleared this up, answering the questions that matter.
I feel like I have a couple other random ones, like Dead Snow is a great German zombie movie.
Oh, I've heard of this one. Yeah.
It's literally Nazi zombies, and that's a lot of fun. It's also a bit of a comedy. There's also Juan of the Dead, the Cuban zombie movie, that's also a comedy and really, really funny. I mean, last serious recommendation. You know, I love Zombie 2. I think that one's good. The Fulci movie, it's a little slow. The shark zombie fight scene's great. But honestly, the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead doesn't get a lot of love. I think that
Yeah.
one's really great. But even bigger, man, Tom Savini's remake of Night of the Living Dead. That is a classic. It's a 90s gem. The horror effects are brilliant. And I feel like a lot of people skip on that one. They think maybe it's going to be like bogus, but it's not. It's most righteous.
You know, we were saying, mentioning of films to stay away from. I remember that you and I were looking for. No, I came over to your house one time and you happened to be watching the remake of Day of the Dead.
Oh, yeah.
And, man, that was hot garbage.
Yeah, there's two of those. Those are pretty bad. The last thing I'll tell you to stay away from is Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. I took a chance on that one to see if it was any good. One of the like most disgusting lowbrow humor movies I've ever seen, and it was just too far. I couldn't take it. Some of the gags are so gross that I couldn't even tell you about them without having to bleep it all out later in the podcast.
Oh
So
my God.
maybe I'll share with you guys after we stop recording. But that one's a stinker. Stay away from that. Stay away from that.
Quick update. I cannot find a legitimate streaming site, even pay site, to watch Dead Alive. So I might have to look on Apple.
Oh, and you know what? I might be leading you down the path of false information because I'm pretty sure. Is Dead Alive the British name? It's got two names.
Huh.
I don't know. I saw the Dead Alive.
Yeah, I'm pretty
One
sure
on Prime.
I'm pretty sure it's Dead Alive. I could be wrong here.
There's
but-
also Brain Dead / Dead Alive.
Yeah, Brain Dead is the other name of it. But yeah, Dead Alive is the title in the States.
Bring back zombie mode and Call of Duty.
Hey, play State of Decay. State of Decay is like one of Microsoft's only exclusives, and it's so cool. That game is great.
Is that the one with the? Is that the one with the motorcycle guy?
No, that's a Days Gone, which I haven't played yet, but I've heard good things.
Yeah,
That dude
thought
who's
about
in
that one.
every video game. Well, I think that wraps it up on our zombie movie discussion, everyone.
How nice. Love a good zombie film. Love the season.
Yeah.
So looking forward to everything else we have left.
Me too, man. It's going to be a great
This
horror
is the
season.
beginning of Spooks
Well, technically,
of our Spooksy season.
the music box is going to be the beginning. This will be released.
Oh.
So this is the official non-bonus.
oh yeah,
beginning,
this
I
is the
suppose.
official
Yeah, there we go.
beginning.
All right, so before we, I think the next segment we got to kick it to real quick is Character Limit Extended.
Hey.
Where we talk about the movie that we just reviewed on Character Limit Exceeded. And this last episode we did Kung Pao, Enter the Fist.
I am so glad that we watched this movie.
Same.
I'm
so happy.
I mean, I texted you guys all about this. I'm in the opposite corner. It reminded me of that time that we watched Grind together, and we all collectively said, "Never again."
Yeah, that
Should've been
grind
left
that
in
will
the
not
past.
come back on. That was rough. I really wish we hadn't have done that. That is unfortunate.
It's so funny because it was just such a pleasant watching experience for me
It
again.
is funny. And it was
Yeah.
beneficial for you as it was for me because you decided to give away your DVD copy and I
Yeah.
ended up with it.
Yeah, I bought this movie maybe like a year ago because I saw it at a store. And I think the last time I saw it, I was like an 8th grader or 9th grader. And I was like, oh, you know what? This is funny. I'm going to pick it up. It's $1 or something. And maybe we'll review it on the channel one day.
This probably comes as a surprise to nobody, but I still have my original copy.
Well, I'm not sure to congratulate you or, but
Congratulate that man.
in all, in all seriousness, comedy is pretty subjective. And I think that this is probably the genre that we differ on the most, which I think is funny.
Comedy?
I wouldn't have anticipated that, to be honest, but I guess it makes sense. I think there's a lot of comedy shows that you guys are into as well that I don't dig the humor on. So it's probably just a difference in
A la
opinion.
Tim and Eric.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Like
Tim and Eric, Workaholics.
the really adult swimmy stuff. Yeah, I didn't like Workaholics, and I didn't like that Canadian one either.
Yeah.
Oh, I think you should leave.
No, that show's great. I showed you
um,
guys that show.
I love that show.
God, what's it called? That's a big Texas size stand for.
oh, you don't like Letterkenny?
Let-
Yeah,
Letterkenny.
Letterkenny. And so
Oh,
many
man.
people on the internet were talking about how great it was, and I think
So
Michelle and
good.
I watched the first like 2 or 3 episodes, and we were like, I don't get what is so funny about this.
Like, oh, I wish
You
the
know,
show weren't so awkward,
Raven-
but
Raven and I have been doing, well, she's seen it already, but she's got me watching Schitt's Creek, and Schitt's Creek is worth an honorable mention of a great, amazing comedy show. It actually just won
An honorable mention on this list that you just
on
started
this
right
list
now.
of zombie movies. Yeah, I think it just won like 7 Emmys or something like that. 7 or 9
it cleaned
Emmys.
out, right? My parents
Yeah,
have been watching it, so I stayed away from it. That's usually how my rule goes. My parents tell me it's really good, and I'm like, okay, this isn't for me. But I'll have
No,
to
it's
watch
great. I think that you and Michelle would love it.
On Character Limit Extended, I honestly, I feel like I didn't get enough in my review to fully go into what I just really didn't like about the movie.
oh man, I don't like the sound of that at all. Like editing
man.
it, I was like kind of angry just listening to this.
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately, here's a couple things. It's like Steve Odenkirk, is that his name? Odenkirk?
Steve Odenkirk.
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 So you look at his filmography, and he's got a lot of great stuff. He worked on Ace Ventura.
I mean, all of it's like silly.
Yeah, silly stuff. But he also worked on that really awful, like, Thumb series.
Love it.
And really, you enjoyed that?
Yeah, that stuff's like
Oh my
It's in the good bad category for me for
Whoa.
sure.
I'll say that I didn't enjoy the thumb stuff.
That's in the same tier as that, like, talking orange thing to me.
Well, it's the tongue thing in Kung Pao. It's
And I was
like-
gonna say, yeah,
it's the same gag.
You feel that gag right there, and then, it's just to me it feels like the same thing. And I'm not trying to offend you guys, okay? I'm not lessening your opinion, but it feels to me almost like what happened in Phantom Menace, Like, this guy worked great as part of a team when there was like a director there and like other writers to kind of steer him in the right direction.
There's somebody to tell him like, hey dude,
Hey, dude, you've gone too far. But in this time, it was like, oh, I'm writing this movie and I'm directing it and I'm starring it and I'm, paying for it and living out of this Motel 6. It's like, it was too many of the jokes went too far. Like, man, you shouldn't have done every voice in the movie. Like, it was a step too far, especially when, the gag comes up at the beginning. Oh, the bad guy's got this really unlikely voice. Oh, that's really funny. But then it's like, it's every character. It's every character has this weird voice. And then the same thing with the dubbing. It's really clever to dub the scene where the mouths don't line up. Or, hey, here's a piece of dialogue that doesn't fit with the mouth going on. But then it's also so obvious that it's like, let me add in these random lines that make no sense in the script because I have to like match it up a little bit. You know what I mean? You can tell where they were just like filling in lines. And it's like a funny gag. It is a funny gag. For like a 15-minute short, but for like an hour and a half long movie, it's like, dang, man, how many times can we hit this gag over and over and over again?
That's so funny to me because, like, for me, the longer you go, the funnier it gets for me.
Ooh.
Like, we get to a point where they dub the dog, like the dog's bark is off. Hilarious. We get to a part where, like, you talk about like filling in stuff because mouths are moving, so you gotta put something there. But there's this part where there's two guys just. They're like walking into this like compound and these two guys like gardening or something and they're not saying anything, but he made the choice to like have them sing this song and the song is like, we are both ventriloquists. It's so funny. And then those guys are hanging later on in the movie and they're silent again, but they're still singing. So good. That's so funny to me.
And that's like an example of where the joke was just, it was like, but at that point I was like, nah, man, okay.
Honestly, I love that part. I feel like the gags that don't work for me are the ones that have significantly aged wrong because they're so like time specific, like we talk about in comedy all the time.
Oh yeah,
the Matrix
big
guy.
example is the cow.
Yeah,
the
Matrix cow.
But right before that, when they do the like pan back and forth between the main baddie and the chosen
That's
one,
awesome.
like 17 times.
That is
so funny, man.
But imagine if they did that gag every time there was a fight scene. Then it would be like, oh no, this is too much.
It might.
And I love it because then he throws that little like star right into the ground and it just
and barely poofs. Yeah, he's still standing there.
I do got to say one thing I like about the movie. It's pretty creative. Like the idea of green screening this guy in, essentially. And when you watch, because they showed at the end of the movie how they did some of the scenes and everything, and it's really cool. I mean, some of it's very obvious in the movie. Okay, this is a stand-in and this is old movie footage. But even on the stand-ins, it's like, well, dang, you guys built this set to match this movie, and it's pretty impressive.
They put a lot of work into
it. And I think that this could have been an Ace Ventura level comedy if they picked a different star and got a director. Like instead of
kind of had like a writing team, maybe.
Yeah, like I just think there needed to be a bit of a filter, like a bit of reining in. Because I think it's a little bit niche. That's especially today. I could see it being a big hit with kids. Like I think a group of 5th graders is still gonna lose it watching this movie.
They probably will. I need to show this to my nephews. I don't know if they've seen this movie
because
that'll be a great
wild.
Test. Yeah, it is totally wild. There was something else I was going to say.
I love like teasing a sequel that's like never intended to happen. That's like one of my favorite things.
Yeah, that is good.
We do get like a Phantom Menace dig a little bit. He has like those weird aliens run across the screen at some point that don't come back. They're like super computer generated.
Aren't there the UFOs too? Don't the little pyramids turn into UFOs and they fly off?
Yeah, but that's like part of the story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When
Betty gets his power from
the aliens are French.
I mean, another gag is obviously the CGI baby, which is terrible, and the tongue gag is terrible.
That's the CGI baby, for instance. The scene's like 5 or 6 minutes long, and what really is the joke? The joke is that this baby's fighting.
You peed on him.
Yeah. Oh, he punched him. Oh, he hit him in the nuts.
But without that, we couldn't get to. It's honestly one of my favorite gags is like that baby rolling down the hill after like the grass head explodes for some reason. And the baby's rolling, and then this lady comes through. This little farmer, like she finds him, and picks him up, gives him a kiss. Okay, bye, and she like keeps pushing him down the hill. That's good stuff.
And I think that's great too. But it's the moments that shine are surrounded by like gags that are 5 to 10 minutes long.
Love it.
I will
overstayed
say,
their
I mean,
welcome.
obviously it aged. For me, like the hilarity of the movie is still at a good 85% for me. As far as the jokes that I still think are classic that still got me, I'd say about 85%. I had to like roll my eyes a couple bit and like want to push on through some of the gags that you're saying were way too extended. I totally agree. Like the ones you bring up, I understand, but some of the lines are just so fantastic.
Yeah, I
Like
can definitely say
Wimplo is amazing.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
That's good stuff. No, Wimplo is amazing, Danny. I would say that I understand where a lot of your points coming from. You know what I mean? They just like hit me different. Like,
Yeah, I
it's
think that's fair.
it's the comedy being objective kind of thing. You know what I mean? Or subjective. Yeah.
I rock.
And I think
roll
like
all night long. Sweet Susie.
yeah. And for me, honestly, like I said it in my review, I've watched it a shameful number of times. Like I think I'm closest to the three of us out of like where I was on my initial watch to where I am today. Like really a lot of love hasn't died for me for this movie. And I mean, I watched it recently, like with my friend Tino, like I think it might have even been this year, like pre-COVID.
Oof. Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like I have nothing else I need to say about it. I would not recommend, but we have 2 recommendations. So take it on your own. And then when you watch it and you decide where you're at, then you'll know it's that much better. And then maybe it'll help in further movie reviews. I don't know. I have no idea.
Chosen one.
Oh, but you know what? I do got to address this, Danny. Okay, I'm editing our intro to this video, and you're over here like top 20 or what did you say? One of the top kung fu movies of all time. I was like
I say that?
flabbergasted. Yeah, I almost didn't
Well,
even
I
remember
believe what you
saying
actually
it.
said was like best kung fu movies of all time.
Yeah,
I believe
yeah,
that's what
he
you
was
said.
like one of
Yeah.
the best kung fu movie. Like it sounded like you were guessing yourself while saying it, and I was like, "Is this a joke? Is Danny being serious right now?"
Is that this episode?
I'm about to anger text him.
No, that was for the CLE.
yeah, for the
Kung Fu.
CLE for Kung Pao.
Kung Pao.
I was about to angry text you a list of kung fu movies.
I mean,
Oh, I'm sure a
Drunken
lot of people
Master,
would.
fantastic.
Yeah, like I just watched Big Trouble in Little China. You know what I mean?
Fantastic.
Great stuff. Okay, well, I think that's enough here,
Damn,
right?
we're gonna have to do kung fu movies sometime. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Have you guys ever seen Police Story?
Yeah,
Ooh,
dude, that's great. That's fantastic.
Police Story is brutal. It's Jackie Chan, and it's not like family Jackie Chan. It's like,
Oh, good.
Ooh,
This is pre-
You should not have kids in the room while we're watching this
Pre-
movie.
US
This is
fame Jackie
just
Chan.
after he was a porn star.
Maybe.
I don't know. I gotta look.
I don't know the timeline on that, but it could be.
Frank doesn't have the stats on that one. He's gotta.
This is one.
Oh, come on, Stat Daddy.
This is one blind spot in the Stat Daddy's rearview mirror. I'm sorry about that.
Oh gosh. Well, it happens to the best of us.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much gonna wrap it up for Character Limit Extended.
Sorry.
David, I believe you have the next segment for us. What are we doing?
Oh, I guess it's time for. Oh, that's interesting. And I have an article that I've already sent to you guys. So let's shake the facade. But the article that I have for us to discuss today is from rawmusictv.com. Although I got to say there are quite a few articles about this. Jared Leto, singer of 30 Seconds to Mars, the Joker, not the one you're thinking of, the one before that. Okay.
The younger coke-headed brother in Lord of War.
Yes, yeah. The one of the heroin addicts in Requiem for a Dream. But Jared Leto has started a cult on an island, and his followers call him Prophet. So let's see here. Actor, musician, and now apparently Jesus 2.0. Jared Leto has often been a questionable figure, mainly when he started to dress, talk, and walk like Jesus. We're guessing how Jesus might have walked. This is the writer in here. He's laying down some funny things.
Nice.
Wait,
Nailed
is this a
it.
he? Hang on.
Way to assume, David.
AC Speed. Okay, that doesn't help me at all. Okay, that's the name. That's the name of the author. My bad. Okay,
We'll just go with they.
so things seem to have taken an unsettling turn as Jared Leto has now started an actual cult where he invites his fans to join him on an isolated island where he proceeds to walk around like some sort of modern day Jim Jones, preaching to his choir. If you don't know who Jim Jones was, he found a cult in Northwestern. Hey man, we know who Jim Jones is. The cult town was supposed to be a religious safe haven for Christian worshipers. However, claims of abuse. Oh, this is going on.
There's some talking about Jonestown there.
Jonestown.
Okay.
Let's just say it did not end well.
It did not. So, in regards to Jared Leto's culty island, is it a cult? He said himself, yes, this is a cult. Hashtag Mars Island
my God.
the band's Twitter page. Not to mention all of the people that frequent the island actually call it a cult as well.
That's dangerous because usually they're like, it's not a cult.
Oh, it's not a cult. Yeah.
Don't be rude.
Which maybe, hopefully this is more of like one of those like subscription fan club things. But he puts, Mars Island is the name of the island Jared invites his trusting followers to join him for several days at a time for a price, of course.
Makes sense.
That's where it always gets you. And this is what it says. An official description. Mars Island is a 3-night, all-inclusive festival experience. Relax and restore with yoga amongst the trees, take a dip in the pool, catch a midnight screening, or gaze at the stars, and catch 2 intimate performances with 30 Seconds to Mars.
Lame.
Mars Island.
Do you have to go to that?
Mars Island is an
Jeez.
experience like no other. Now, I had to look this up, because I'm the only one here who's probably like a 30 Seconds to Mars fan. I don't want to speak for Danny. I know that Frank
You
is
can
not.
speak for me on this
Can
one.
you be a fan of just like? Do you like more than their one song?
Yeah, I mean, there's a handful of tunes. I could give you a playlist of good 30
Okay.
Seconds to Mars tunes.
I just wanted to know because I only know like the 1 or 2 songs.
Yeah, like Kill and like Attack.
yeah, that
All the
one.
really violent sounding ones.
Sure.
This is an article from back in 2017. I just want to share this with you all because this is something I had observed as a 30 Seconds to Mars quote unquote fan. I wouldn't say I'm like hardcore or anything.
You're
but,
not trying to go to this island right now?
No, I'm not. Although, I mean, how much do I get to talk to Jared Leto? It's a handsome man.
Can we talk to him about his Joker portrayal?
Hey, man, what
Do you
the
think
heck?
that gets kicked out?
What the heck and heck?
If I come to your island, will you get on our podcast? We're gonna do top 3, bottom 1 Jokers. Okay, so anyway, he put out a single back in 2017 called "Walk on Water," and he had asked his fans to work on creating a music video, and his fans, which have often been called cult-like, submitted over 10,000 submissions from 50 states and 92 professional film crews, and they put together this like giant music video for this tune "Walk on Water," where it's sort of like a loose depiction of Jesus-like qualities. But Jared Leto's kind of been cultivating
that's how you do that.
this kind of thing before.
There it is.
Honestly, I think we should do a Jared Leto movie ranking episode before he gets Me Too'd in the next couple months. That's how I'm kind of feeling about this.
That's probably a good idea. It might take a little bit longer because like the whole brainwashing thing tends to like buy you some time with that.
Yeah, you gotta wait a little bit. You gotta look at that Nexium timeline now. That really determines what happens.
So, would you guys go to Jared Leto's Cult Island? And if so, what would it take to get you there?
I know I'm the first one in the group to be like, let's join a cult. But this isn't one that I would jump into. This one doesn't sound as fun.
Is it just the music? You know what I mean? What if it was just Jared Leto, the film star, and he was never in a band?
If it wasn't involved at all with the band, like it would probably sway me differently. I do like his acting. I'm not a huge Jared Leto fan. But I'd be like, well, that sounds kind of interesting.
Yeah, he's fine, but even as like a resort getaway, it doesn't sound that appealing.
Nah.
I think it really comes down to like, what's the price too? What is it like to fly? And also, is this the time you want to be going to a island with a bunch of strangers? Like, let me get on this small plane to go to this isolated island with a bunch of people from all over the world, and let's hope no one has coronavirus. This could be the start of a zombie movie starring Jared Leto. That's all I'm saying.
Well, if Jared Leto is like their messiah, couldn't he just cure you of the coronavirus?
I don't know. I hope that it goes well for those cultists. I hope that they find their way, and I really hope that Jared doesn't Leto them down.
I hope it doesn't go well. I hope this is like the first part of something that we'll talk about in true crime, like 20 years from now. Like, I hope this has a crazy. Like, I don't wish any ill will on anybody. You know what I mean?
But you
the
kind of
true-
do. You kind
the
of
true
do.
crime fan in me. I want to read about this story. I want to be like, yeah, you remember the guy from the band and he was in those movies? And then, yeah, that was wild. Who saw that coming?
Dang.
We're just waiting on the Netflix special for it, really.
Yeah, that's what I want. I want the
Wow.
Netflix special.
Right on. I mean, it's a bit
Ooh,
more.
who's going to play that handsome
I
man,
was
though?
gonna say,
That
who
casting
gets
is going to
play
be
Jared
tough.
Leto.
Keanu Reeves.
It's just like super old.
It's gonna, that would be terrible if something really happened. But man, what a story! Like, there's never been someone that famous.
That's what I'm saying.
who's
There's a
turned
lot
into
of
a cult
decisions
leader.
I've made in my life based on like, well, the story would be better this way, honestly. And that story would just be fantastic. It's a fun arc.
Well, I hope you know, David, that is interesting.
Oh, that was interesting, David.
I appreciate it, y'all. Well, it's come to the end of the podcast, and here we are at Peeps and Predicts, where we take some people and we argue about them, and that's all the explanation you're getting today.
Wait, before we get to that, actually,
Oh, whoa!
I'm going to introduce us to our final segment, Peeps and Predicts. It's a hypothetical debate podcast where we have a jar full of peeps, or people, if you will, fictional or real, and a jar full of predicts, which is present this week. No big D. And we're going to see
Hopefully
who's going
not.
to come out on top of these situations here. We'll see who wins. We have a champion. We'll get to that later. 2 out of 3 format, because that's the right way.
What a beautiful intro, Frank.
A delightful intro.
Thank you. It just felt like the right time. So here we have Elizabeth Hurley versus, it looks like Pil Pacho.
Oh, I believe that's Al Pacino.
Al Pacino.
Pil Pacho.
Otherwise
I could
known
see it
as
being-
his alias Pil Pacho.
Yeah, I could see it being Al Pacino now that I know it's Al Pacino.
That's his name in Pig Latin. Pil Pacho.
Pil Pacho.
So we get the devil versus devil. Hoo-wah. And what are they going up against? Who would fortify the best zombie shelter?
Ooh.
You know,
Sorry, I hadn't started thinking about it yet. I just got caught thinking about Elizabeth Hurley in my head.
yikes! I don't know. So there's a bit of sexism here. You know, maybe Al Pacino has had more experience building things hands on. Not to judge Elizabeth Hurley, but she doesn't seem like someone who's into like constructing
Hard labor.
Yeah, into hard labor just from her outer appearance. You know, completely judging biasly, but at the same time, Al Pacino's like an old man.
That's the point I was just going to make.
Yeah.
Like, Elizabeth Hurley's probably a little bit more resilient. You know what I mean? At this point, she probably lift
I
a
think
little
she's
bit
British,
more.
actually. Oh, you said resilient,
Resilient.
not Brazilian.
Braziliant. Is what
Something
he's-
tells me you knew what I said.
Uh,
Everybody's a comedian. Everybody's a comedian on this loosely comedy-based podcast that we do. Yeah, honestly, I would give this one to Elizabeth Hurley, mostly because of the age factor. She's also way hotter, as discussed previously in our bedazzled.
Oh, you know what? That goes hand in hand with what you're saying, Frank. Because she is hotter, she could be, defined as a brick house.
She is mighty,
She's
mighty.
mighty.
Letting it all hang out.
I mean, I guess you're not wrong. I don't know.
She's a brick.
I don't know how that applies to actual fortification.
No.
I just looked up Elizabeth Hurley construction to see if maybe there'd be some hit on Google. And unfortunately, I learned that Elizabeth Hurley's husband killed himself. That's what I've learned here.
Was it while he was building a fort?
No. And unfortunately, it's his ex. Okay, so they'd already been divorced.
Not as
Oh, then
sad.
it's fine.
Yeah.
Not as sad, I guess. But this just happened in June. It's the guy who wrote Kangaroo Jack. He killed himself.
Oh my God.
I was sad.
Is he still haven't gotten over the whole Kangaroo Jack thing?
Oh no.
I felt bad about it, but it had to be done.
Did he never make a bounce back?
I guess not. And then of course, Hello magazine, some like celebrity tabloid, they put out Elizabeth Hurley stuns fans with bikini photo. shortly after Steve being passed away. It's like literally this article from July 1st.
Oh my god.
Well, I think that just speaks to her resiliency.
You know what? I agree, and I think we should give her the win.
Yeah.
because she's a brick house.
Liz Hurley. Maybe not that reason, but
That's one of the reasons.
okay, here's the next one.
A sub reason.
Is this the same one? Did I just fold it up? Yeah, I did. I just like folded it up
Is
in my
it
hand.
Pal Pacino or is it Al Pacino?
It's Pal
Pacho.
Patino.
Papacino.
Have you ever heard of the tragedy of Pil Pacino the Wise? Okay. Who's more popular with the ladies?
I guess it depends which ladies you'd be asking.
Yeah, okay. So
That's an easy one, yeah.
No, I'm saying
Is
it's
it an
not that easy.
one? What's your answer, Danny?
Well, I feel like Al Pacino is definitely a sex symbol for at least a decade.
But if you're
That's
asking,
true.
Meryl Marek, famed drummer of Phantom Kin and TikTok influencer,
Yeah.
no,
who
because
she
Mary
would prefer.
doesn't like lipsticks, so I don't think she would.
Well, actually, yeah, he just slapped down your argument there.
Huh.
But even if we were to get into like a sexual orientation argument, arguably there's probably still more straight women than gay women, percentage wise.
But how many of those straight women find Al Pacino attractive? Because sexual attraction is another one of those subjective
don't
things.
know.
Like
I wonder if
your
there's any
wife
kind of
thinking Dan
statistics I can
Aykroyd
find
is
on this.
handsome.
Yeah, that is weird. That is a weird one. Or her thinking also that Blake Lively is just an average looking woman.
Poor Blake Lively.
There's some weird
Is
stuff
that-
going on.
Yeah.
Who threw down that?
Michelle. It's mostly
That's
jealousy
weird.
about being married to Ryan Reynolds, I'm pretty sure.
Well, that's what's going on there.
Well, really quick, before we make our decision,
Yeah.
I'm going to click on this Reddit link.
What if I've already
So
made my decision?
Eloquently titled, Odd Question, but does Al Pacino do anything for you?
Wow.
Ooh, Danny, giving us the answers that matter. Let's go.
First answer, no.
Interesting.
So someone, Urban Cowgirl from 5 years ago, as recently as 5 years ago,
Hope she's
wow.
doing
has
great.
said,
Okay.
has
Just-
said,
I'm sorry, real
he is
quick.
absolutely not my type.
I feel like every source from now on needs to be a Reddit post. I feel like we've discovered a new rule for Peeps and Predicts.
That
It
makes
has-
sense.
You
to
heard
me.
it here first. We are the most unbiased here at,
So,
at Uninformed Movie
so this
Reviews.
lady's also saying she's not doing it for him?
Well, Urban Cowgirl 79, as of 5 years ago, says he is
Ooh, missed it by
absolutely not
10.
my type physically, but he's wonderfully talented, and the Tony Montana character in Scarface is sexy just because he's such a badass.
Ooh.
He is.
That is an argument.
That's true.
It's, a lot of ugly dudes have this sexiness about them purely because of the confidence, and I'm sure that comes into play with Al Pacino.
Okay.
And I think even if you asked a lot of straight women, who's more attractive, Elizabeth Hurley or Al Pacino, I think even a lot of straight women would answer, well, Elizabeth Hurley. Al Pacino looks like an old leather bag.
Who's more attractive objectively? That is one thing, but the question is who's more popular with the ladies, which I think is specifically like
If we were talking
who's
about their
getting the most
devil
chicks?
characters, then this would be a landslide victory for Al Pacino. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
because he is very popular with the ladies in there.
My goodness.
I gotta say, I'm feeling Camp Pacino. I think that, especially when you think of Tony Montana being such an iconic role, there's probably, a few ladies who feel the same way.
I'll give you that.
He's also a cutie in the first Godfather.
And you know what?
He's
It's a
adorable.
2 out of 3. I have no problem giving Al Pacino this one. Because it's
All
all going
right.
to come down to this last little
Yeah, I'm
pre-dick.
Camp Pacino too. There's a lot of evidence.
Okay.
Camp
pointing
Pacino
towards
really
it.
makes me want a coffee.
Well, you probably don't want one right now. It's pretty late. All right, so let's get the tiebreaker in here. Who's going to take it tonight? Elizabeth Hurley or Al Pacino? Who is more? Wait, this is actually.
You mean Pil Gazpacho?
Let me see here. Okay, I got one more. There was one from last week that I accidentally threw back in the cup. That's why I threw that one away. Okay. Who's more likely to hide a bite? So this is a zombie
Ooh.
movie scenario.
Hot take.
Honestly,
Elizabeth Hurley
ooh,
or Al Cumberbatch?
I'm having a hard time with this one because I feel like I don't know these people
Well enough,
personally.
right?
It's not like Keanu Reeves or Michael Pena, where I have a close personal relationship with them.
I was
But
hoping that would be in there.
I'm thinking I feel like it would be Al Pacino for some reason. I think Elizabeth Hurley would be just a little more open and honest. She's also probably wearing less clothes.
I was just going to say, in the outfits that I've seen her in, she would have way less opportunities to hide a bite than Al Pacino would.
I think that's fair. Whereas I think
as long as Al Pacino doesn't get bitten in his chest.
I think Al Pacino, he's got that kind of like, you know, what's in it for me kind of vibe. Maybe it's just all the movies I've seen him in.
It's kind of hard to say, but I think your scantily clad argument does hit it on the nail. They hit the nail on the head because they both recently played not recently. They've both played characters not known for their truth telling.
True.
So it's kind of hard to say.
Are you referring to Satan?
Yeah.
I'm feeling okay with Elizabeth Hurley winning this thing.
Yeah, I think she takes this one.
Okay.
No, wait, who's more likely to hide a bite?
Oh, Al Pacino.
Al Pacino wins.
Ooh, this always happens to me. Yeah, so Al Pacino.
Yeah, that is funny. You always like flip that third one.
Question, yeah. So Al Pacino is our winner today, which means he has to go up against our reigning champ, and that is Brendan the Boulder Fraser. Everyone.
Ooh, how will he do against this new devil? Let's find out.
I hope Dudley does all right.
Ooh,
wow,
that's some good work you did right there.
And we get another zombie-themed one at you. Who would last longer in a zombie apocalypse?
I believe you mean who would last longer in a zombie apocalypse.
All right, so
that's a good one.
So you're feeling Brendan Fraser. Would you like to open up the floor, Danny?
I would like to state my opening argument in that there are 3 full films of evidence of Brendan Fraser fighting the undead.
Mummy, very similar to zombies. And they have the whole mystical power, which is harder.
They got more powerful arguments.
I feel like we clarified last episode that we were talking about the people and not all of the roles.
Yes, we did, but that was too fun of a point for him to make for me not to get excited about it. But I will concede that the precedent has been set.
Okay, I just want to make sure because at the same time, I don't think Al Pacino's ever killed anything supernatural. I feel like all of his movies are pretty grounded in reality, except for Devil's Advocate. Strangely enough.
I would say that both are in relative physical shape right now, even though they are far apart in age.
Yeah, because Brendan Fraser did have that back injury, you know what I mean? Once he wrecks something like that, it's never exactly the same.
Although, I got to say, Brendan Fraser, I think, has experienced lower lows than Al Pacino, not to speak for a man's entire life. But it seems like Brendan Fraser is fresh to the hardships of the world.
And you know what? He has stunt experience.
That's true. That's how he messed himself up.
That is how he messed himself up. I would personally give it to Brendan Fraser on this one just because of his stunt background.
And could it be said that metaphorically, Brendan Fraser's career and life, quote unquote, died and came back? And his career is more or less a zombie.
He does have experience with reanimation. I will give you that as well.
Yeah, and regular animation as well.
Oh snap! That point doesn't apply to this argument, but it is a point nonetheless. Yeah, I can't see any reason to give it to Al Pacino over Brendan Fraser on this one. Sure, he'd do all right.
I'm always team Brendan Fraser, y'all. I'm always team Brendan Fraser.
Wow, that makes it 2 episodes in a row for good old Brendan Fraser.
Get it.
Long may he reign.
Long may he reign.
Well, here we are.
First of his name.
Here we are, the end of another episode. Any farewell words? Any sign-offs?
I will say, friends, if you enjoyed our intro track, that is done by none other than the Phantom Kin. Please check us out at phantomkin.bandcamp.com. Look for us on Spotify, Phantom Kin, Instagram, Phantom Kin Band, and anywhere else you find music. Also, please be sure to subscribe. Click the bell for alerts and notifications. If you like our work, please email davidandfrankenbeans@gmail.com. Give us your suggestions. Give us your hate mail for Frank. Tell him to trim his beard. You know, everything, all the good stuff.